too.
Thank you.
So this, oh, Sonia, this is what we're doing.
Theoretically, we'll see what actually happens.
Finding places to move from a house to a place, to an apartment. And you're with someone, with Ollie, where'd you go? You're an Ollie. Yes. There she is. Oh, there she is.
That's what it is, huh? I don't know how to figure out Mary and Joseph from here. Mary, Joseph. The Catholics. They have a different side of the altar for Mary than for Joseph.
You could be one of those people doing their stuff.
Yeah. I should be in the center aisle so I can be Joe Reed. Joseph? Mercy. Jesus is transgender. Was anyone sitting here?
I can't see anybody there.
Okay, I know Marie had stopped
Oh,
us.
she wants to sit
Yeah,
there.
I want to sit here because I sure, except next to him, his voice is so.
Stephen, is there enough here? Let me know if there's anything you need. Would you like some Play-Doh for this? Would you like some Play-Doh today? Okay, then you have to come pick the colors. Victoria, would you like some Play-Doh? Come look at the colors.
Can I get some Play-Doh?
Do we need to do another Play-Doh service?
Yeah. I want Play-Doh.
Sometimes one of the mics will work better than the
Yeah, that'd be the tough part. Yep. Yours.
Do we need to make space? Does one of you want to be closer, or are you all right? Okay, we can shuffle if we need to. That's totally okay, either way. Or if you want some space, that's okay too.
Or if you want to be child-free for it, or just sit next to you.
Co-parent.
Co-parent.
I'll get a couple chairs for back.
What's the time she starts?
29.
Good afternoon. All right, we're working. Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Burek. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a member of Merging Waters Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a community that draws on the shared values of mindful interdependence, authentic curiosity, and courageous love. We welcome you who are joining us in person and you who are joining us online. It is so good to be together in all of the ways that we can. If you are with us here in person where we share space at the United Church of Christ, New Brighton, we are so glad that you are here. We ask that everyone wears a name tag in an effort to practice radical hospitality and to build community, and some are available on the table out in the entry area. We encourage everyone to take care of your body's needs during the service and engage in ways that help you feel connected, including crafting, doodling, fidgeting, stretching, etc. This room has space in the back over there for children to be engaged in activities, and they're welcome to stay there or sit with their adults or move back and forth between the two. And if any of the adults would like coloring and crafting equipment, we have those out on the card as well. If you have a pastoral care need, please feel free to reach out for Reverend Krista. She won't be having formal office hours during the summer, but her contact information is available on our website. Newcomers are available to all of our programming. You need not be a formal member. If you are new to Merging Waters, please consider signing up to receive our weekly e-news, which gives details and links for our events. To sign up, you can include your email address on the sign-in sheet at the welcome table and check the box that gives us permission to add you to the mailing list. And if you're online, there's a connection card available on our webpage. Next month, we will change our start time. Beginning on Sunday, August 2nd, we will start our service at 1 p.m. It's a half hour later than now. Hopefully the post-lunch 1 p.m. start will allow more people to enjoy the service and stay later for coffee and socializing. Same great service, same great people, same great guests, and new people. Save the date. Bruce and Marie's 2026 Big Backyard Picnic Potluck and August Coffee House will be August 8th, so put it on your calendar, please. And if you have a song, poem, a little skit you'd like to share with the rest of us, let Bruce or Chad Snyder know, and we'll sign you up for Coffee House. The Sunday evening book group meets tonight at 7 p.m. at Sig and Marty's. It's the residences at the St. Anthony Assisted Living. The group is reading I Went to See My Father by Kyung-Suk Shin. And finally, Charles Martin, an artist and friend of Merging Waters, will be featured in an art show from August 1st to September 5th. Please see the Thursday update for further details.
One additional announcement that I got written up but forgot to email to Colleen. On Saturday, August 15th, we will be having a worship wondering event. So the morning from about 10 to 12, we'll be talking about what is worship. Why do we do the things we do? How do we make those choices, and what would be exciting for us in worship in the coming year? Then we'll do some lunch together, and those who want to stay or who want to come later can stay to do process stuff, looking through our script, figuring out our guest preacher procedures. There we go. Got the word. So fun day, come for half of it, come for all of it. Again, that's August 15th, and it will be in next week's Thursday update.
Sounds like fun. Joining me in worship service in person today is our minister, Reverend Krista, as the service leader. Bruce, our director of music ministry, is at the piano here on site. Members of the choir will lead hymns, but we'll stay in our seats to do that. A volunteer tech team includes Katie Johnson, Byron Johnson, and Brian Hill. Katie Johnson and Janice Sancott create the service slides. Welcome once again to our service today. We hope that these Sunday services provide a time of sanctuary, reflection, connection, and joy. We will now light our chalice in person and encourage those of you online to light one at home. Our chalice lighting words are from the Reverend Erica Hewitt. The chalice, as a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, arose as a beacon of hope in an atmosphere of tyranny. The chalice arose as a sign of promise that the marginalized would neither be forgotten nor ignored, because they are beloved and precious from the perspective of the holy. This morning, we remember all of the people who have been told explicitly or implicitly through police violence or government policy, through derision or dehumanization, that they're anything less than whole or anything less than beloved. As we light a chalice here and in our homes, may we make of our lives a beacon, a symbol of our promise to draw the circle wide, a sign that we will not rest until all means all.
Our opening reading this morning is from Reverend Sarah Gibb Millspaugh. It was written in September of 2017. Religion is as much about faith in humanity as it is about faith in deity. And many of us will find that over and over, our faith in humanity gets tested. We are immersed in a culture that's deeply corrupted by selfishness, greed, and oppression-born privilege and fear. It's all too easy for us to justify the dehumanization, ostracization, suffering, and death of others. It's all too easy for us to devalue some humans' lives and feel somehow like we're still good, upstanding, moral people. Religion at its best asks us to do better than this, to rise above the selfishness and status-seeking, the othering and xenophobia that come too easily to us. Religion at its best, and our Unitarian Universalist faith, calls us to honor that which is sacred in each person, even those we might hate, even those who we find disgusting. It impels us to accept on faith that there is a sacred spark, a worthy spark in every person. This can sound mundane, but it's very radical, revolutionary even. Each person sacred, each person worthy. Accepting this on faith changes how we live. In this time when so many of us live in fear of a dehumanizing political regime, let us renew our pledge to live out those sacred and humane teachings that draw us toward compassion, love, and justice in ever-widening circles of care. I'm going to add my own 2 words, care and accountability. We have for our first hymn this morning a short video of a hymn called Draw the Circle Wide that was used at General Assembly, which is what we're going to talk more about today, in 2021, so during the pandemic. This video was created and shown at the General Assembly, and I think it's really a powerful way to remind us of the ways we've grown and the ways we're still working on growing. I invite you to sing along as you're willing and able, or just listen and watch the video. Again, it's called Draw the Circle Wide, and you're invited to either remain seated if you prefer, or stand if you like to get a little more air under you for singing as you're able and willing in body or spirit.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one is alone, we'll be side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. No one is alone, we'll be side by side. Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone. We'll be side by side.
No one is alone.
Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide. Draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone. We'll be side by side. No one is alone.
Draw the circle wide.
In your sadness and in your grief, from the pain it seems there's no relief. We will hold you until the storm subsides. We'll draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide. Draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone. We are side by side. No one is alone.
Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide. Draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone. We are side by side. No one is alone.
Draw the circle wide.
Draw the circle wide. Draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one is alone. We are side by side.
Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about some things that went on at this past General Assembly, but also taking a broader look back to the ways in which our General Assembly has evolved. And I have to apologize in advance. There's going to be a fair amount of insider vocabulary and a lot of stuff about process and procedure and rules, which as a process geek, I just love. And the rest of you are probably going to be rolling your eyes. But bear with me, because it's in our processes and procedures that we live out our values. And the choices we make help us figure out how to draw the circle wider, to include more voices rather than restricting them to a certain dominant culture that knows how to play the rules. So what is General Assembly? Well, it's the annual business meeting of the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is an organization made up of individual member congregations. The assembly is also a gathering that provides opportunities for faith leaders and individual UUs to get together to learn from one another, to talk about things about congregational governance and membership and theology and religious education and social justice. And when we have in-person GAs, there's also a strong element of fellowship and seeing old friends and seeing the sights in the host city. Over the last 20 years, we've shifted away from doing all of our General Assemblies on site every year with just kind of a little bit of remote participation to having what we call hybrid General Assemblies, where we are striving to make the in-person experience and the online experience as equivalent as we possibly can. That's a part of drawing the circle wide that in particular is important to our folks with disabilities. Captions are one way we draw the circle wide, and we, not to go too deep into this, but we continue to have issues with captions going out and people continuing to talk. And for those of us who rely on captions when we're not in person, that's frustrating. So we're continually striving to improve the experience for everybody at General Assembly. The interesting thing about the Unitarian Universal Association is a little bit like our kissing cousins here, the United Church of Christ and some Baptist denominations, is that we're governed according to the principle of congregational polity. This means the congregations are the unit of governance in the association. Our UUA bylaws specifically say that the UUA cannot tell its congregations how to call their clergy, what form of worship we take, or what to do with regard to anything else except that we can't do racial discrimination or any other kind of discrimination based on individual people. And the only other thing congregations are prohibited from doing is imposing any kind of a creedal test, which is contrary to a lot of denominations which are hierarchically organized and which have a required creed, the Nicene Creed if you're a Christian, or other kinds of creeds where you have to believe it in order to be a member. In the UUA, this congregation is free to govern however we choose within those very broad parameters of not excluding anybody from our circle. At General Assembly, we engage in a lot of the basic business that any organization has to do. We conduct elections for officers, including the president of the association. We don't have an appointed pope that a small group of people picks. It's the delegates from member congregations. And each congregation sends delegates based roughly on its size. In addition, our religious professionals like our ministers and our religious educators are also automatically delegates, so that they have that ability to take part as a virtue of their very important position in our movement. We have reports. Every one of our officers delivers a report. Organizations like our Unitarian Universalist Service Committee and the UU Women's Federation deliver reports so that we can be accountable to our membership. We get to tell the membership every year, here's what we've been doing, and the membership has an opportunity later on in the assembly to voice their concerns if they have any through a mechanism called responsive resolutions. More on that later. The UUA also at General Assembly will adopt various social justice statements. Every few years, we adopt a very significant process called a Congregation on Study Action Issues, which is a multi-year study process on a significant issue, which results in the adoption of a statement about the issue, which is a very strong and compelling statement that in congregations, again, not required, but strongly encouraged to take part in, which becomes part of the policy of the UUA. We also engage in social witness actions called actions of immediate witness, and these are things which can't wait for a multi-year study, but deal with contemporary issues, so things that are happening in the here and now. And there is a couple-month lead-up process for proposing these actions. They come from the congregations. But we've also recently introduced a process where if something is really late-breaking, like happening right now, there's a way to get something on the agenda on fairly short notice. And again, more on that later, because there's almost nothing you do that doesn't have a downside somewhere. So these actions aren't binding on congregations, but because we're a covenantal faith and all of the member congregations have agreed to be together and govern ourselves jointly, congregations have something of an ethical obligation to at least take a look at these social justice statements and figure out what we're going to do to respond. Understood that with several actions of immediate witness, a congregational study and action issue, and the issues our own congregations are concerned about, no one congregation can get to do all of these. But it's there, and we're encouraged to take part in this as part of this covenantal faith that we have. And my first GA was back in 2009, and there's been a major shift in the way we've conducted business in the course of that time. It used to be that the entire process was governed by Robert's Rules of Order. And if you've ever been to a DFL or a Republican precinct caucus, you know what that's about. You introduce something, it gets seconded, there's a motion to amend, and that gets debated, and so on, and there's all kinds of call of a vote, a quorum call, tabling, this and that and the other thing. It's just, if you know the game and you play it well, there's a real strong temptation to weaponize it. And this happened a fair amount of time at General Assembly, sometimes by the dominant culture, but occasionally by some of our people with marginalized identities who were able to maneuver things and prevent a harmful action from being taken by using a motion to table or something similar. However, by 2017, we had a major crisis in the association around the persistence of white supremacy culture. And for those of you who haven't heard that phrase, this is not the same as the white supremacy of the Ku Klux Klan or the Proud Boys. This has to do instead with the presumption that the way the dominant culture does business is the only way to do things, it's the best way to do things. And in particular, this is a reflection of white society. A lot of these practices that we take for granted were adopted by modeling the corporate culture of the early 19th century. And it was presumed that if corporations did this, if government did this, it's got to work for any other organization, even though clearly the mission and values of an organization like the UUA or our member congregations are not the same as the U.S. government or a Fortune 500 company. What we had at the time when we went into business sessions was, besides a for and against microphone, and these were all in person at the time, we had a couple of procedural mics. One dealt specifically with procedure. If you had a Robert's Rules type motion that you wanted to get up and do, you had the opportunity. And we seemed to spend most of our debate time on procedural stuff. And any of you who have attended a GA that far back know what I'm talking about. And then there was an amendment mic. People could offer amendments on the floor, and the amendments got debated. And then, somebody would show up with the procedure mic and say, well, what are we voting on? Are we voting on this amendment, or are we back on the main motion? And being a moderator was a bit of a headache. When I joined the board in 2017, I took part in the Mod Squad, the group of people who was moderating, and our first couple of GAs, it was all about that stuff. I had my Robert's Rules cheat sheet, and every now and again would have to kind of huddle to say, okay, what is this about? We had a parliamentarian, and every now and again would grab the parliamentarian and have a side conversation, or would have legal counsel in, like, can we do this or can't we do this? a lot of substance wasn't happening. And for our people of color, also for our other people with marginalized identities, like our folks with disabilities, our LGBTQIA folks, a lot of times this was taking away from actually having a substantive result. For all of the mechanics and the maneuvering, most of our social justice resolutions passed by 85, 90, 95%. So we were spending a whole lot of time on minutia when we were going to end up pretty much agreeing anyway. Not always, but a large part of the time. And so when I was on the board, as we were working with then co-moderators, Elandria Williams and the Reverend Mr. Barb Grieve, we started to strip away all of those mechanical things. We got rid of the procedural mic, we got rid of the amendment mic. There's a process before the General Assembly starts where amendments can happen, that's so-called mini assemblies, but we're focusing now more on, here's the issue at hand, let's decide what we want to do with it. And as Elandria once observed, we're not worrying about where the semicolon goes. Truth. So we also changed, and this was sort of an important change in how labeling is going to affect perception. Besides pro, meaning for, and con, meaning against, which sets up kind of a for and against and an inability to meet in the middle anywhere, we have a pro mic, but then con means concern. And we encourage people to speak in terms of concerns. So you're not against it. Again, what we're finding is that in many cases, the con wasn't so much, I just hate this whole thing. It was, I like most of this, but there's this one thing. And so we were trying to instead foster a little bit more of a collaborative process at our General Assemblies. We were giving people 2 or 3 minutes to talk among themselves during the in-person and providing an opportunity online, so that we weren't just jumping right into debate without finding out what other people had to say about it, which are some fairly significant changes reflected more of indigenous and black culture and Latino cultures than the dominant white culture, which tends to politicize and bifurcate things. And the adherence to procedure at the expense of good outcome is one of the trademarks of white society. That's the rules, you got to follow them. Nope, no exceptions. And while that may have some value in government, because you don't want bureaucrats taking the law into their own hands, again, in a faith community, this isn't how we want to operate. So a lot of these changes we have been making in the way General Assembly functions are really reflective of the UUA's intentional trying to live into being an anti-racist, anti-oppression, and multicultural organization. This was a commitment made in 1997 by the General Assembly, which adopted a business resolution, which is binding on the association, and we've been struggling to live into that ever since. It took the crisis in 2017, though, to really get the association's attention in a way that hadn't happened before. We appointed a Commission on Institutional Change, which took 3 years to issue a report going through every facet of UUA life and pointing out what needed to change in order to be truly welcoming of people with marginalized identities. And governance was a big part of this. And so we've been trying to continue to push the envelope to make our General Assemblies more what we think they should be, more reflective of our values. At this past General Assembly, there was a good example of this, and again, here we're going to get into some nitty-gritty. The process for presenting or offering an action of immediate witness starts a couple of months before GA. By the first part of June, the proposed actions of immediate witness that have met the criteria are proposed to be included in the business agenda. But more recently, the board adopted a process whereby something really immediate and urgent, like it's happening right this week, could be introduced. But due to time constraints, we only have 2 or 3 days for business. The amendment, there was no amendments allowed. Okay, that makes sense. You know, you're not going to have time to just do all that massaging if you're going to introduce something on Monday and you vote on Tuesday. So somebody, a white woman from San Francisco, proposed an action of immediate witness to deplore the inhumane conditions at Delaney Hall in Newark, to voice support for the people who have been out there day after day after day protesting those conditions, and also encouraging people to do the same thing in any detention centers in their communities. There's an action that's supposed to be taking place tomorrow that was already known about over a month ago, and she included in her resolution that we should be supporting that, but then also added a call, where she got the idea, I have no idea, to do something on Sunday, June 20th, which was right as General Assembly would be in its final day. Something she came up with all by herself. Well, as soon as it was published, there was an immediate backlash or objections from people who were part of the New Jersey organizing groups that have been there for months, like since last fall. The UU Ministers Association expressed concerns, not that there was anything wrong with most of the resolution, which called for paying attention to these horrible conditions and supporting the people who are trying to, the folks who are on a hunger strike out at Delaney, but the fact that it had not been inclusive in any of our partner organizations. This was somebody's bright idea. They never talked to the organizers from New Jersey. They certainly never talked to any of the non-UU partners that have been there all the way through. And this is something which I would bet maybe 10 years ago, but certainly 20 years ago, that issue would never have been raised. People would have seen that resolution and said, yes, we got to take a strong stand, and us good white people are going to be on the right side of the issue and make a strong statement. And other voices that said, hey, wait a second, what about the folks who are already working on this? If they got raised at all, they would have been ignored in favor of, we have to make a statement. And in fact, there were some pro-speakers that kind of said basically, well, we know that thing is a problem, but we need to do this anyway because this is so awful. To my surprise, and I think maybe a lot of other people, the AIW failed by like 85%. The number of con speakers were 2-to-1 over the pro speakers. People were finally getting what our people of color in particular have been saying all along, which is you can't do these things by yourself. White people particularly need to step back and follow the leadership of the people on the ground who know the issues, know the players, and who are the ones most impacted by it. And so this, in many ways, was a significant, significant change in the culture of the way our General Assembly and the culture of our UUA operates. And I can't tell you how big this is looking back 20 years, just as comparing how things have been done. Now, that was okay as far as that went, and a number of, particularly one of the leaders of the New Jersey faith effort, raised the problem that in not allowing amendments, we harmed the people who are most harmed by the things going on at Delaney. They had to oppose something which they really believed was a good thing, all because the rules say no amendments. Okay, yeah, that's a problem. But the UUA co-moderators, along with legal counsel, were able to come up with a workaround, a little tweaking of the rules. We have a process called responsive resolutions, and these are things that can be offered at General Assembly as a response to what the bylaws say is a substantive portion of a report by one of the UUA officers, the board, one of our standing committees. Now, back when I first started on the Mod Squad, our former legal counsel, we would have looked at the little hook that was used to justify this responsive resolution and said, no, you cannot use a responsive resolution to substitute for an action of immediate witness. Sorry, the rules are the rules. That did not happen this time. The moderators decided that tying this responsive resolution to a statement from the Executive Vice President, Kerry McDonald, about how we need to work in coalition was sufficient to allow the introduction of a responsive resolution, which basically dealt with supporting all of the things we wanted to support about resisting these horrible detention centers and the conditions in them, but didn't include the particular action that this person was suggesting that was totally out of line. And so the resolution that got passed stated, quote, "We affirm that the greatest midwife of justice is relationship. We ask the congregations and our association to reaffirm our demonstrated commitment to organizing in community, prioritizing relationships, and centering the most impacted. Let us show up in authentic and grounded solidarity on July 13th at Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey." So, a little creativity, a little willingness to bend the rules, and we were able to finally accomplish something that maybe 10 years ago we either would have done the wrong way, or we would have stuck by the rules and said, no, we can't do this at all. So what I think I've been seeing, again, having been involved in the UUA governance, is that we keep taking steps, we keep making mistakes, we keep trying to fix them. And so I'm sure that next year somebody will be proposing tweaks to the rules that would address the problem we just had, and we will create other ones because that's just human nature.
So that's a lot to take in. Thank you, Kathy. I too am occasionally a polity nerd, and it's fun to hear all the ins and outs. But I want to give a moment of framing of why, for those of us who maybe aren't as much polity nerds. We talk about creating justice in the world. Right? And a lot of times in our worship, we talk about what can I do as an individual, or what can we do together as a community. And we talk about changing laws out there and doing action and justice. But the truth is that change doesn't just happen out there to other people. It's also about how we practice systems and justice and rulemaking within our own organization. That also is a place for us to learn and grow and experiment on different ways of living out our faith in systems. All right, so when we apply the lens of what does it look like to live in love through the business work of having an association that functions and that can help to serve all of our congregations, these conversations and this change take on a depth of meaning and sacredness that might seem hard to find when talking through all the jargon and the details of it, but is at the core of, I think, what came out in that resolution. That the thing that we are working on centering now is relationship over rules. Right? That it is the people who are most in the way of harm, the people who are most in the work, whose lead we should be following. It is those relationships that are most deeply important when we go to do justice work and center it in love. That's the simple version. But it gets lived out in all of these messy details. And the way we make incremental change over time matters. I think that's a good overview of General Assembly.
I'm also on the bylaws renewal team. We're rewriting all of the bylaws except for, I'm also on the UUA's bylaws renewal team, and we're rewriting all of the UUA bylaws except for Article 2, which we dealt with a few years ago. And so if you think everything I went through is going to be complicated and messy, hold on to your hats. This is a 4-year process.
And you're looking at our bylaws here at Merging Waters also, and how do the ways that we govern in this small congregation reflect and impact the ways that we do our work as a faith community. So that was the first part of General Assembly, and this year they actually took General Assembly and kind of split it apart. Most years they weave together, they do some business meetings, and then they have some educational time, and you're kind of there for 3 or 4 days going back and forth between those two ways of being. But since we were mostly remote this year, they tried something new, where we front-end loaded all of the business stuff, and then we took the Saturday after, the day after Juneteenth, and really dug deep into the faith formation aspect of General Assembly with a program called Meet the Moment. But I am jumping over some stuff in our program today. So I'm going to foreshadow Meet the Moment. But we also take time during a General Assembly to worship together, to honor the work that is being done in the congregations, to talk about all of the successes and the joy that we have had together. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned on Saturdays we wear our sparkly blue to celebrate our queerness for those of us who have that identity. So General Assembly is both the business and the deep, important work that is done there, and the joy of being together with our broader faith siblings. So one of the things that is celebrated is annually there is an award given called the UUA President's Award for Volunteer Service to the Unitarian Universalist Association. And this is awarded every year to either an individual, an organization, or a group of people who have done above and beyond service to the Unitarian Universalist values lived out in the world and within our faith community. I just found out on Friday that Kathy won one of these awards back in 2014 for her work on regionalizing the UUA. So this year, Kathy can now claim to be part of 2 awards. And all of us as well. Because this year, the award went to Unitarian Universalists of Minnesota. To each and every one of us in this room who lived out our faith through the ICE occupation. Specifically, the little ways and the little things we did that were unseen. The moments we checked on our neighbors, the times we delivered food, the vigils we held outside of schools. There were so many ways that we were present that even I don't know about in this community. And so at General Assembly, during one of the business meetings, they honored the Unitarian Universalists of Minnesota with this award video that I would like to share with us today. And you might see a couple of familiar pictures in there. Oh, that's not the link we provided. It is in the order of service. It's the Vimeo down further. Or in the... No, it's in the script. It's in the script. I'm like, I know it's there somewhere because I watched it this morning. There we go. Thank you to our tech team for always helping us as we throw all kinds of random things at them.
This year's President's Award for Volunteer Service to the Unitarian Universalist Association honors our 26 congregations in Minnesota, the Minnesota Unitarian Universalist Social Justice Alliance, or MUSJO, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, or BLUE, and countless others who answered the call to public witness and action this spring in Minnesota. We are also grateful for the leadership of March, Multi-Faith, Anti-Racism, Change and Healing, and the Chicago area congregations who shared their experiences and learnings resisting the injustices and violations of ICE. Throughout this crisis, our Minnesota congregations banded together and with community partners in defense of neighborhoods and communities, showing up powerfully in support of our values. UUs were adaptive in meeting the moment, contributing, and showing up in ways that were most needed in defense of their neighbors. On January 23rd, 2026, hundreds of UUs from across the country gathered and marched to demand that ICE get out of Minnesota. Support poured in through people, donations, and encouragement. It was a powerful manifestation of Unitarian Universalist faith and theology in action, one which supported local UUs as they endured ICE's occupation of Minneapolis for months. This award primarily acknowledges the countless untold and unseen actions of UUs. Much of this resistance was anonymous by design, its successes known only to those who directly benefited from the harm that was prevented. If you think we are celebrating you, we are. If you did anything, big or small, seen or unseen, this award is for you. Unitarian Universalists in Minnesota powerfully and faithfully manifested our values and continue to do so. May you feel the gratitude and support of our entire association as you continue to offer ministry and support in these destabilizing times.
Whew. Brings back a few things, seeing those photos. At the end of September, the UUA leadership is coming back to Minnesota and offering a dinner of celebration. And we have a few seats available, so if you know of someone in the congregation who did incredible things during that time that might have gone under the radar, please let me know. I'm trying to figure out how to send invites for that dinner, because I'd really like to bring each and every one of you with me. I am checking the time and going, we had a lovely conversation about the business part of GA. So I'm going to read to you really quick the meet the moment questions that encourage us to think about what it is that we're experiencing in life right now as a faith community and how we meet those challenges. And then actually this will fit in really nicely with next week's service. So I'm just going to tie it into that, but I want to present the questions for you to rumble on a little bit through this week, and we'll do a bigger activity next week. So the Saturday after the business meetings, General Assembly spent an entire day wrestling with these questions as applied to a lot of different areas of our congregational life and action in the world. So the questions for reflection are, what is the moment we are in as UUs in our wider world? What are the most urgent and important needs and opportunities of this moment? And what do our values call us to respond to in this moment? And so next Sunday, we will reflect on those more, as well as good trouble, which fits perfectly with these. We've got lots of laughter in the room. Kevin, are you going to miss the Good Trouble?
I'm gonna miss you, good trouble.
I think I'm going to invite Kathy to share our offertory, and then we'll do our closing hymn as part of the offertory music to keep us moving along since we're already after 1:30.
Let us now enter into a spirit of generosity. Today, any undesignated contributions will support our Merging Waters regular operating expenses. If you'd like your contribution to go to a monthly community partner, please use an envelope and check the box indicate for Family Tree Clinic on your check, or select the July-August special donation from the drop-down menu if you're donating online. Our offering words are by the Reverend Joe Von Rue. In our world, many voices are silenced. Many truths remain unspoken because the speaker fears rejection, judgment, or worse. Our financial offerings today help sustain this congregation as a place where all voices can be heard, where truth can be spoken without fear, where vulnerability is met with compassion. We give in gratitude for this beloved community and with hope for a world where more voices can speak their truth. The basket will be passed in person. If you are on Zoom or prefer to give online, please use the instructions on the screen,
which we will put up after our hymn lyrics. And we'll sing together hymn 155, Circle Round for Freedom. Baskets would be helpful. Thanks, Kevin. Our closing words today are from the Reverend Rebecca Savage. We have come to the end of our service, but not the end of our calling in the world. We close our time together with the humble reminder that justice and equity are our spiritual practices to embrace. Each day, every day, we are blessed to be the embodiment of what is possible. When justice and equity ground us in all that we do, may we go forth with the light and warmth of our chalice in our hearts until we are together again.
So let us now do our ritual of extinguishing the chalice here and at home together. We will share the words on the screen so all can join in reading it. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our service is almost over. Remember to check your email and our website to stay engaged with what is happening at the church. We will gather again next Sunday at 12:30 when Reverend Krista will be leading a service titled, Good Trouble Lives On. Today, after our service, you're invited to join in a time of fellowship, and for those in person, refreshments out in the entry. If you're interested in a more formal sharing, we have a Sparklet Circle where we share something that sparkled for you in the service and check in by asking, how is your spirit? It will start about 10 minutes after the service, either in the fireside room here or online, you'll organize yourselves into a Sparklet Circle. As you're greeting each other, please remember to ask each other for consent if you would like to hug someone. We are so glad you've joined us today. Go in peace. We have a tradition of closing our service with the song, Go Now in Peace. I invite those of you who are in person to form a circle here in the fireside room, and please check with your neighbor on their comfort level of holding hands, touching elbows, or having a hand on their shoulder. We will sing to each other, and those of you at home will find the words in the chat. We encourage you to turn on your video so that we can all see each other as we send each other back out into the world. If you're here in person and don't know the words, let us sing to you.
Everybody, I put printed posters for Charlie's art show. Feel free to take them. I will print more. They can't pick them up anyway. Grab a poster if you want to go. I'll make more. Or if you think you might go.